It's 2011. A small studio in Moscow called Neki is building a Facebook fighting game. They don't have the budget to design real characters, so Shadows will have to work. It does well, so they make a sequel. Shadow Fight 2. Those shadows get downloaded 420 million times. Now they can make a better game. Real characters, real faces, everything the original couldn't afford, but it flops. It gets half the downloads, and people lose interest. And one question stands. What happened to Shadow Fight? How did an improvement kill half the player base? But to answer that, we first have to go back to the beginning. It's 2011, and mobile games are blowing up all around the world. Angry Birds has been downloaded over 500 million times. Farmville has over 80 million players. Cut the Rope is printing money, but none of them are actually on your phone. They're on Facebook. They're browser games. You see, before these games came to your phone, all of them started as simple browser games. And that's when a small Russian studio called Neki sees this and makes a bet. They drop Shadow Fight 1 on Facebook in February 2011. It is a simple fighting game. You're a silhouette fighting other silhouettes. Just shadow figures moving against painted backgrounds. Neki had a small team and a tight budget. Rendering full 3D characters would have been expensive and slow, so they had to improvise with shadows. The game had online multiplayer, magic, weapons, hand-to-hand combat, but it wasn't huge, just another Facebook game competing with Farmville and Candy Crush. Then in 2013, however, Neki started working on a mobile sequel. Touch controls, deeper story, actual RPG progression. And May 1st, 2014, Shadow Fight 2 launched worldwide on iOS and Android. The timing was actually perfect. 2014 was when mobile gaming went absolutely nuclear. Clash of Clans was making over $1 million per day. Candy Crush Saga had pulled in over 800 million pounds the year before. Flappy Bird was generating $50,000 daily just from ads. Everyone with a smartphone was a potential player, and among these giants, Shadow Fight 2 started thriving. While everyone else was making match 3 puzzles or base-building strategy games, Neki made a fighting game, an actual fighting game with real combat mechanics that worked on a touchscreen, something never done before. The silhouette style came back, but refined. The animations were smooth, physics-based, realistic. You could feel the weight in every punch, the momentum in every kick. A heavy hammer played completely different from nunchucks, different from a katana. The combat was deliberate and methodical. You couldn't button mash. You had to time your attacks, study patterns, wait for openings. When you landed that perfect thrust kick to the head for a critical hit, it felt incredible. But the mechanics was only a part of it. The actual lore behind it was what made Shadow Fight so incredible. You're this legendary warrior who's never lost a fight. You get cocky, open the gates of shadows looking for a worthy opponent, and 6 demons escape and steal your physical body. Now you're just a silhouette hunting down each demon one by one. Lynx, Hermit, Butcher, Wasp, Widow, Shogun, and at the end, Titan, this alien warlord from beyond the gates. Once you defeat him, you get your body back. There is obviously more lore than just this, so if you want me to go through it all, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments. Shadow Fight 2 also brought progression. You started with nothing, bare fists. Fight by fight, you'd unlock weapons, swords, staffs, claws, hammers, armor sets, helmets, magic abilities. Every piece of equipment changed how you fought. The game had hundreds of combinations. When you enchanted your gear, you could add bleeding damage, lifesteal, stun chances, an RPG hiding inside a fighting game. The game was free to play. Sure, there was an energy system, 5 fights, and then wait or watch ads. So yeah, you could buy gems to speed things up, but you could also just play. Grind, save coins, upgrade gear slowly, and beat the entire game without spending $1. Tons of people did exactly that, which was another reason the game was so popular. By August 2014, 3 months after launch, Shadow Fight 2 had 30 million downloads. At its peak, over 500,000 new players every single day, over $100,000 per day. By the end of 2014, it had blown past 50 million downloads, and 95% of that growth was organic. Neki didn't have a massive marketing budget, no Super Bowl commercials like Clash of Clans or other giant mobile games at the time. People just shared it. Your friend would show you the game on the bus to school. You'd see someone playing it in the cafeteria. YouTubers started making videos, pure word of mouth. By the time the dust settled, Shadow Fight 2 had over 420 million downloads. It got ported to Windows, Nintendo Switch, consoles. For a couple years there, Shadow Fight 2 was the mobile fighting game. If you had a smartphone between 2014 and 2016, you probably tried it. School buses became training grounds where kids would show each other combos. People would stay up late grinding for that one weapon they needed to beat Hermit. You'd finally take down the Butcher after your 20th attempt and felt on top of the world. And so, what happened? What led to this game's downfall? By 2017, the mobile gaming landscape had completely changed. The market was saturated. Battle royales were exploding. Fortnite Mobile would drop in 2018. PUBG Mobile was already climbing. Those simple download and play during lunch mobile games were being replaced by massive, competitive, live service experiences. Shadow Fight 2 was still running, still getting updates, still pulling in millions of players, but it wasn't the cultural phenomenon anymore. The conversation had moved on. Players either already beat the game or just grew tired of it, and Neki knew it. They needed to evolve. In August 2017, they announced they were shutting down the original Shadow Fight 1 servers, the Facebook game that started it all. It had been running for 6 years, but the fans did not like that. They begged for more time, so Neki gave them 1 extra month. On October 27, 2017, Shadow Fight 1 went offline forever, and just 3 weeks later, Shadow Fight 3 launched. Better graphics with actual 3D characters instead of silhouettes. More complex story with different factions. Shadow form abilities, full character customization, gender, face, hairstyle. This was supposed to recapture that magic, bring Shadow Fight back into the spotlight, but something felt off. When you talk to people about Shadow Fight 3, one phrase keeps coming up. Shadow Fight 3 has better graphics, better mechanics, a deeper story, but Shadow Fight 2 just hits different. The numbers prove it. Shadow Fight 2, 420 million downloads. Shadow Fight 3, 210 million, exactly half. Still successful, but it never captured that same magic. Removing the silhouettes removed the game's identity. Those black shadow figures weren't just a budget limitation anymore. They'd become the brand, the aesthetic, the thing that made Shadow Fight feel like Shadow Fight. Taking them away was like if Minecraft suddenly stopped using blocks. Technically better graphics, but you've lost what made it special. The monetization got more aggressive too. Loot chests with random gear, booster packs, gacha-style equipment drops. People called it pay to win. Shadow Fight 2 had caught lightning in a bottle in 2014 when mobile gaming was still figuring itself out. By 2017, that wave had crashed. Shadow Fight 3 was a better game in a lot of ways, but it showed up to a party that was already ending. Then, in an attempt to save the franchise, Shadow Fight 4 Arena came out in 2020, focusing on PvP competitive battles. 50 million downloads. Not bad at all, but it's not cultural anymore. It's not the thing everyone's playing and talking about. Just another mobile game in an ocean of mobile games fighting for attention. And so what about now? What is the current state of Shadow Fight? The franchise is still alive. Shadow Fight 2 is still getting updates, still has millions of active players. Neki's still making games, still supporting them. But that Shadow Fight 2 moment where a game breaks through and becomes part of the cultural conversation, where it's a shared experience millions of people have together, that's gone. But here's what actually matters. Somewhere out there right now, someone's still playing Shadow Fight 2. Maybe they're 19, playing it on the same iPad they used when they were 13. Maybe they're in their 20s, downloading it again because they remembered what it felt like to finally beat Titan after trying 20 times. How they looked up YouTube videos to learn his attack patterns. How they finally won and actually felt proud. There are stories all over Reddit and YouTube from people talking about what this game meant to them. Someone wrote about how Shadow Fight 2 was their escape when they were in high school. They'd come home every day and lose themselves in this world of silhouettes and martial arts. They talked about Mei, the character who guides you through the game, how having to fight her later genuinely hurt, how the game wasn't just about combat, it was about growing up, leaving things behind, and moving forward with life in general. That's what these games do. For millions of people, Shadow Fight 2 wasn't a time killer on the bus. It was the first mobile game they actually cared about. The first time they felt real progression on their phone. The first time they told their friends about a mobile game and watched them get hooked. It was part of their middle school years, their high school experience. That moment when smartphones were still new. Video games are time capsules. When you boot up a game from your past, you're remembering who you were when you first played it, the school you went to, the friends you had, the stuff you were dealing with, and nostalgia starts hitting. Shadow Fight 2 came out in 2014. If you were 12, you're 22 now. If you were 16, you're 26. The game hasn't changed. The silhouettes still move the same way. Titan's still waiting for you, but you've changed. And when you download it again, it is almost like you're visiting a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. That's why people still talk about it. That's why Reddit threads have people saying this game was my childhood, and it's not because Shadow Fight 2 was perfect. It had its flaws, its grinding, its energy timers, but because it was there at the right time and it meant something. Mobile gaming has moved on. Games are bigger, more complex, more competitive. The monetization is more aggressive. The cultural moments are more fleeting. A game like Shadow Fight 2 probably couldn't happen the same way today. The market's too crowded, expectations are too high, the window for organic growth is too small. But for the people who were there, who spent hours learning combos and grinding for gear, and finally closing those gates of shadows, it's always going to be there. Not just in the App Store, but in memory. A snapshot from when things felt new and anything seemed possible. A small Russian studio with a limited budget made a fighting game with silhouettes because they couldn't afford full character models. That technical limitation became the identity. They launched it in 2014 when mobile gaming was exploding but hadn't become oversaturated yet. They relied almost entirely on word of mouth and reached 420 million people. They created something millions of players actually connected with emotionally. Games like Shadow Fight 2 hold this special place. games. They're proof you don't need cutting-edge graphics or unlimited budgets or massive marketing to create something people care about. Sometimes you just need the right game at the right time, finding the right people, and maybe that's the real story. Not that Shadow Fight died, but that it lived at all. That for a few years, this game made by a small team became a shared experience for hundreds of millions of people. That it mattered to someone on a bus in Mumbai, in a classroom in Sao Paulo, on their couch in Chicago. The servers for Shadow Fight 1 are gone. The cultural moment for Shadow Fight 2 has passed. But the game is still there, still playable, still waiting for anyone who wants to put on those shadow gloves one more time. Games like this don't really die, they just become memories. And memories, the good ones, the ones tied to who we were and who we wanted to be, those stick around forever. If you made it this far, you probably played Shadow Fight 2 at some point. Drop a comment about which demon gave you the most trouble, or what your favorite weapon was, or if you ever actually beat Titan, because I personally didn't. Let's show that even though the moment has passed, the people who were there still remember.